Samaniji, how are you?
I'm fine.
Good. Wonderful to be here with you all.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So I think we can start now. Is that all right? So on behalf of the Jain Studies program, I would like to welcome you all to our virtual space at Florida International University for our 12th annual Mahavir Jayanti lecture and award ceremony here at Florida International University. This year, our focus will be thinking about Jain studies in a different way. Previously, for the Nirvan lecture, we talked about Jain youth and thinking about what are the perspectives and challenges for Jain youth in the United States and looking at sort of contemporary issues. And here we're going to take a little bit of a different turn and thinking about the past and particularly trying to understand and excavate the Jain legacy, which goes back thousands of years in the country that is now Pakistan, in a place where Jain studies hasn't really been able to develop over the last decades. But now recently there has been new openings and interest in the universities, in even government policy, to explore and support the study of non-Muslim minorities in Pakistan, Buddhist and Jain as well, and trying to provide expertise and also resources from scholars here in North America and in India to scholars in Pakistan. And so we're very honored today to have three eminent scholars with us who I'll introduce shortly to talk to us about their cutting edge research in the study of Jainism within Pakistan and the Pakistani Academy. So we're very honored to have these scholars here today. And with that, I will like to just, welcome you all to this wonderful lecture, and particularly to transition to Professor Larson, who is the chair of the Department of Religious Studies here at Florida International University, and was one of the founding scholars in our department who helped to establish the Jain Studies chair. He's a very strong supporter of our program, and especially as we work to sort of expand the remit of Jain studies, not just in the United States, but also internationally. So with that, I would love to turn it over to Professor Eric Larson.
Thank you, Iqbal, and thank you everyone for coming. It's a great privilege to be here with you today. And on behalf of the Dean of the School of International and Public Affairs and the Department of Religious Studies here at FIU, we are so pleased to continue our work with the Jain Studies program here. I actually want to say a word about two of my predecessors. The first, my immediate predecessor as chair of the Department of Religious Studies, Christine Rudorf, who really did a lot to integrate Jain studies into the program of religious studies at FIU. She worked very hard to get new courses created and working with the Samanijis who were originally came to FIU, and they've done such great work through the years. And then another predecessor is Professor Nathan Katz, who served as our first Bhagwan Mahavir Professor of Jain Studies at FIU, and really set a very high goal and a high trajectory for what the program could become. To give a little context, we are the fourth largest university in the United States. India has a bigger population than the United States, so it may seem small to some of our, but we have 57,000 students, and we are the fourth largest university in the United States. We're the first university to have a dedicated professorship in Jain studies. And I was so happy a few years ago, I was sent a book on world religions to review for a publisher. So I looked through the table of contents and I saw something on Jain studies. I'm like, oh, this is very interesting because we teach Jain studies in our world religions course. And then I'm reading through the chapter and I actually see that Florida International University was mentioned as having the first Jain studies professorship in the country. And this is really a testament to the vision of my predecessors and also to the vision of the Jain community. And here I give special thanks to the Jain Education and Research Foundation. They have just been such wonderful partners. And, you know, it's been a great delight. I've been chair now for 12 years. So my first year as chair was the first year that we had this lecture that we're at today, and I remember it well. We really strive to teach every student in our department about the great principles of Jainism. So they all learn about ahimsa and anikantvad and aparigraha. And, you know, as these students are forming their academic careers and their interests of profession, it's good for them also to have some spiritual foundations. And I love the fact that the Samanijis teach a course called Meditation and Spiritual Development. It's so popular among our students. But we really thank the Jain community. We thank JERF and we thank the leadership that has been steady. It's very much a privilege to be a part of this and to see actually the new generation take over from the older leaders. And I will mention here especially Professor Deepak Jain, who has been such a steady hand through all of this. And of course, the administrators at FIU, who have always supported Jain Studies to the best of their ability. So we have a wonderful working relationship. I hope you enjoyed the lecture today, and we look forward to many things in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Larson. So we'll just show a very short video, just kind of recapping the history of Jain Studies at FIU, and then we'll begin with the benediction by Samaniji Chaitanya Pragya.
FIU's Jain Studies program is the first endowed Jain Studies academic program in North America. For a decade, the university has worked with the Jain community to contribute to the understanding of this remarkable faith tradition and civilization.
To me, when we look into Jainism, we create Center for Jain Studies. We need to bring to the world what drives success, what drives a peaceful life, what brings happiness.
The Jain community feels very comfortable with the university. They say university is very much organic part of the community. Even if you're a Jain or a Muslim or whatever, for the local community, they know that they can reach out to the university. That the university has done.
My experience here as a researcher and also like as a member of the Jain community has completely changed my view of seeing Jainism. Like earlier, I used to see it more as like a ritualistic religion, but here now I can envisage it as more like scientific.
FIU enjoys a close connection to the Jain community, particularly the Jain Education and Research Foundation, JERF.
We want to put the FIU in the world map, saying that this is the first professorship started in FIU and it created a significant impact in the local community, in Florida itself, and then globally worldwide.
When non-Jains look at the Jain ideas and come and tell us about it, we learn a little bit more about ourselves. And that's the idea, is that it's not just about sharing, but it's about also us growing with the time, around the values that we value so much.
It is not about the religion, it's not about conversion. I think what we want is just an opportunity to present our age-old pearls and wisdoms of Jainism. Yeah, and I really feel that FIU Jain Studies is the right partner, is the right step for us.
FIU has created new courses that can be taught anywhere in Florida, including the first introduction to Jainism. The university offers certifications and concentrations in Jainism for undergrad, graduate, and beginning this year, a dual religious studies global and socio-cultural studies doctorate.
Even if you don't become a practicing religious person, you should at least understand the values, which is non-violence, tolerance for other, and non-attachment to all the material things, right? The vegetarian lifestyle.
I was just being taught that, okay, you should do this, you should do that, but I never knew like what was the reason behind it, like why we should do it. So I think imparting knowledge and values about the tradition in the right way, and also like through an academic perspective, that's the best that we can do to promote our religion. So I want to serve as a professor and contribute to the society.
Once I found out what Jainism was, I was like super interested in learning about it because I've been vegetarian since I was like 8 years old, and it was a personal decision of mine when I was younger. I mean, ahimsa is the #1 principle in the religion, so I really respected that and I wanted to learn more.
Each year, the program hosts 2 major lectures that highlight both cutting-edge academic research in the study of Jainism and community activism through the Mahavir Jayanti and Mahavir Nirvan lectures.
The Mahavir Nirvan lectures, they were very helpful because it gave an experience of first-hand experience again of engaging with Jain community as well as the Jain scholars from different universities.
Students and professors are encouraged to do research with the Jain Vishva Bharati Institute in India and the International Summer School in Jain Studies. Each year, FIU hosts 2 Jain nuns, Samanis, who teach courses and provide extracurricular opportunities on Jainism, such as Praksha meditation.
So in my class, I find almost 75 to 100 students every year. And I find that all are very receptive by learning all these great principles of Indian culture, Asian culture, and also Jain culture. And they are finding that this is the religion which should be taught in every university.
Along with this growth of FIU's programs was the expansion of our model to many other universities in North America. And not 2 months goes by that I don't read about some other university establishing a postdoc program, a professorship, an assistantship, whatever it is, in Jain Studies at their university, bringing people very knowledgeable about Jainism to their universities.
A new Center for Jain Studies at FIU would further introduce Jain ethics and virtues to the world by encouraging interdisciplinary research and connecting scholars, policymakers, and activists worldwide.
If you ask me what I would like for my next 10 years is how we think of a research-driven center. And by research, I mean we would like to research and see more similarities across different religious beliefs, different religious groups, and try to share what we stand for. And one way to share is through publications.
So I think our original goal has been fulfilled. I mean, beyond our wildest dreams, it's been done. So the next thing, as you said, is to make this the biggest Jain center. But why do we make it Jain center? So that we can bring Jainism or Jain values to common Americans and communicate to them in a way that they understand.
Wonderful. Hopefully you have a little bit of a sense of the Jain Studies program at FIU. So now I would like to welcome Samaniji Chaitanya Pragya, who is one of the Samanis that is visiting us at FIU. She's a visiting professor in our Department of Religious Studies, and she's also an eminent scholar of Jainism from Jain Vishva Bharati University. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Samaniji Chaitanya for a benediction.
So I pay my deep respect to Bhagwan Mahavir, who was the 24th Tirthankar of Jain tradition. Today we are celebrating his annual birthday by inviting some eminent scholars who are working on various projects in Jainism. We find that Bhagwan Mahavir, who was a great legendary personages of the present epoch, He was born in 6th century BCE, and that century was actually very epoch-making, because in this particular century, we find that there were so many great personages who took birth at the same time in the same century and worked for spirituality and truth. Mahavir spoke about the truth. Mahavir spoke about the non-violence. Mahavir spoke about non-absolutism. Mahavir spoke about non-possession, and so many other principles which are having universal value, universal utility, very necessary for global peace, for global non-violence, for global well-being. Today, we are celebrating his annual birthday, but at the same time, at this occasion, we are also awarding one great prestigious award to Professor Narayan Lal Kachhara, who has been working from many last years, especially on happy blending of science and spirituality. And he is being given the award, which is named Acharya Mahaprajna Lifetime Achievement Award. And we know that Mahaprajna was the person or saint philosopher of this present time, 21st century, who has worked a lot on the happy blending or for the happy blending of science and spirituality. You will find that he has wrote so many things in his literature, and has said so many things about how science and spirituality can be blended together and how they can work together for the well-being of humanity. So with these words, I would like to say that Professor Kachhara has been working in the same line, and he has tried to blend science with the spirituality in a very beautiful manner. I have been working with him from last 10 years almost, and he is working constantly on some eminent, some principles, or you can say that almost all the principles of Jainism in the light of science. And he has developed so many good writings, and because of that, we are able to see that how Jainism can be blended, or in which area it can be blended with scientific recent researches or studies. So that has his writing has paved the path of blending science and Jainism, and I have found that his writing is really very fascinating, very simple, very lucid, and without distorting the spirit of Jain principles and practices, he has tried to present Jain principles and practices in the light of recent scientific studies. So this is really very great occasion that Mahavir, who has spoken about truth and what we say non-violence, but he talked in the language in which we find that he is focusing mainly on the principles and the natural laws which are working behind the life and also the cosmic process. So in that sense, we find that Mahavir did not speak only in the language of spirituality, did not speak only in the language of religion, but he spoke in the language of science in his time. Though there were no such kind of experiments or laboratories in his time that he tested all what he has said, but yes, we can now test all those things what he has said, and we find that each and every principles and practices, they are having some kind of science behind them. So to provide such kind of award, from Jain University and FIU, especially to Professor Kachhara, is really very prestigious for JVBI also, for FIU also, that we are recognizing a scholar, a competent scholar who has really worked in this field of science and spirituality. So with these words, I would like to congratulate Professor Narayan Kachhara for deserving for this prestigious award, Acharya Mahaprajna Lifetime Achievement Award. And I'm also very much thankful to Professor Larson and Dr. Iqbal for organizing such a wonderful program of Mahavir Jayanti, in which we are able to see some new emerging scholars of Jainism who are working seriously on understanding of Jainism in a very prehistorical language or prehistorical time. So that is also very needed to know the culture, the antiquity of the culture. And we know that Jainism was spread throughout a very big area part of the world, but right now it is forgotten by some of the people or some of the parts. So it is a great dire need that we have to revive the history again. We have to search where Jainism was already into practice and now how it can be revived. So I'm very much thankful for inviting me to say a few words on this great occasion of annual Mahavir Jayanti. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sonali. I really appreciate that.
Yes.
So with that, I will just very briefly introduce Professor Kachhara for those of you who don't know who he is. Professor Kachhara is an emeritus professor from the Jain Vishwabharati Institute and formerly the director of the Kamala Nehru Institute of Technology in Sultanpur and principal of the Motilal Nehru Regional Engineering College in Allahabad. He's devoted about 25 years of his post-retirement life looking at the issue of Jain philosophy, science, and service at Jain Vishwabharati University Institute. He has authored or edited 11 books and about 50 articles in journals and conferences, as well as a manual on human values in Jain Darshan for Abdul Kalam Technical University. His research has been used in programs across India, the United States, the UK, and also a presentation at the Parliament of World Religions. He's currently, again, the advisor of the Bhagwan Mahavir International Research Center at JVBI, the Jain Academy of Scholars, and as well as the Dharam Darshan Seva Samsthan in Udaipur. So with that, I just wanted to just give a few minutes to Professor Kachhara before we begin our program with Professor Hameed from the University of the Punjab. So Professor Kachhara, please.
Thank you, Dr. Akhtar. I really thank FIU, JERF, and JVBI for this award. I consider it as blessings of Acharya Mahaprajna and a recognition of the need of study of Jain philosophy and science. As mentioned, I've devoted 25 years of my life, post-retirement life, to study this particular area. I find that, the results are really very encouraging. I feel some inner motivation to study Jain doctrines in scientific perspective. And I find that there are some areas where Jain principles are very advanced. And on the other hand, there are areas where the modern science has excelled in. And a joint study of these two streams of knowledge, I think that it can give us a better understanding of the reality. In fact, this has been a very joyful experience for me to undertake such a study. And with a sense of very satisfaction and a sense of fulfillment. Jain principles and practices are really very scientific. I like to quote two recent examples in this respect. In 2016, Nobel Prize in Philosophy and Medicine was given to a Japanese scientist, Yoshinori Oshumi, for discovering the mechanisms of autophagy. Autophagy literally means eating oneself. It is a natural process, and it is the body's system of cleaning itself by eating away the dead cells during fasting. The cleaning process becomes more efficient with longer duration of fasting. And please note, fasting and also long fasting is a religious practice in Jainism since thousands of years. Another example, in 2017, Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine again was given to Jeffrey Hall, Michael Rosbash, and Michael Young for solar control of body metabolism. They were able to peep inside the biological clock and elucidate its inner working. They discovered molecular mechanisms controlling the daily circadian rhythm in the body. The clock regulates critical metabolic functions such as our sleep patterns, feeding behavior, hormone release, blood pressure, and body temperature. Again, note that Jains normally eat before sunset and take their first meal next day, sometimes after the sunrise. The advantage of this type of intermittent fasting of about 13 to 14 years, 13 to 14 hours daily is now confirmed by science. So I find that there is a strong need to synthesize Jainism and science. And as a step forward, we have formed an institution called Jain Academy of Scholars here, where very eminent scientists and scholars are its members, and regular lectures are being held on very specialized topics. The Academy also publishes proceedings containing research papers and articles of interest. And I'm also happy to see that FIU has taken an initiative in education by offering an online course on scientific foundations of Jain philosophy. I find that there are now many centers, in universities in India and abroad, dedicated to Jain studies. There are more than 40 in US and Europe, opened with the help of generous contributions from Jain community, as mentioned just now. And I hope that the study and research in the field of Jain philosophy and science will gain momentum in years to come. Once again, I thank the organizations for this award. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Professor Kachhara. Now we will transition from India to Pakistan. And we're very honored to have our first speaker of Pakistan Jain Studies, who is the eminent scholar and professor, currently the chair of archaeology at the oldest university in Pakistan, University of the Punjab. Professor Muhammad Hameed completed his master's in archaeology from the University of Punjab in 2004, and then joined his department there as lecturer in 2006. After serving the university for 5 years in overseas scholarship, he went to Germany to the Free University, and there he completed his doctorate in 2015. During his stay, not only has he had many different sort of experiences in terms of conferences, symposiums, and workshops, but he also helped to focus particularly on the archaeology of Pakistan and bringing more interest in art, interest into miniature portable shrines from Gandhara in Kashmir. So it's a lot of original research. His doctorate provides the first ever catalog of these sorts of objects in Pakistan. His study is on the origin of these miniature shrines, the iconography, religious significance, and also the conservation of these materials. His articles are also published in recognized journals of the Higher Education Commission in Pakistan. So we're honored to have Professor Hameed, one of the leading scholars of Jainism in Pakistan, to join us today. Professor Hameed.
Thank you, Professor Iqbal, for the introduction. Assalamu alaikum and Jai Jinidar to everyone, and happy Mahavir Jayanti. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Iqbal for organizing this event. And I'm also thankful to Professor Larson, Eric Larson. I heard that since many years he is the head of that department and he started this series. So it was quite amazed to see him working in this. And thank you for giving us this platform to meet online with so many wonderful people, especially the Jain community and the people who are actually the source and who can give me actually the knowledge to learn more about Jainism. My journey about Jainism started in 2012, I guess, when I went to Berlin and I met Patrick Ruger there and then Professor Hampana there. So they started questioning me that, do you know about Jainism? So that was my first introduction. And then I attended a couple of conferences there. And then I decided that when I'm going back, I'm going to work on Jainism. So since 2016, I'm working on Jainism. And quite recently, I've been in touch with Professor Iqbal and with so many wonderful people. I can't name everyone. So I have done some of the work which is related to Jainism and to exploring Jainism and Jain heritage in Pakistan. So I would like to share that particular work which I have been doing. So can you see the screen? I have shared the screen. Is it okay?
Please go ahead and share. Yeah.
Okay. Can everyone see it? I have shared it.
No, we're not. I don't see the presentation.
Okay. Let me do it again.
Yeah. Try one more time.
Okay.
Now we see it. Yeah. Now it's starting. Yeah.
Okay. My topic for today's talk is revealing the hidden Jain cultural heritage of Lahore. I have established a model to study Jainism and I have started this from Lahore. And we are working on a project with Professor Iqbal and FIU. And we just set our target to explore first the city of Lahore and the question of its ownership. This is what I'm actually doing. Again, Professor Sulekji, I'm very much thankful to them, and Professor Iqbal, and also Vice Chancellor of my university, and also Department of Archaeology, my university. So this is actually the content of my talk, that what we have so far discovered, and what are the problems which we have faced, and then based on the data, what is my future plan, which I have tagged as a vision of 2020 to 32, at least 10 years. And then what is the responsibility of Jain community, of course. And the last and the more important thing is Jain tourism and Jain studies in Pakistan, the future and the way forward. So this is Jain heritage. When we talk about Jain heritage in Lahore, we have all type of heritage. It's not confined to one building only. We start from the temples and then we go till the manuscripts, schools and halls and everything is there. And I will take some of time. I try to also try to keep the clock as well. But first, I would like to show what I have so far discovered. So, for example, this is Astana Kwasi Jain Hall, Lahore, that was established in 1990. So actually, this is the picture I use. This is I'm revealing, and here you can see the SS Jain Hall, Lahore. The foundation stone was laid by Shrimati Sukhdevi Jain. So that's how we have the clear-cut evidence of the Jain community and Jain heritage in Lahore. Here you can see also it shows that the Stanakwasi Jain Hall that was established here in 1940. Some more inscriptions from the same building, and we have the complete information. When you go at the site, you can see that the SS Jain Hall is written many places outside the building and also inside the building. This is how this building looks like, located in the heart of the city. And then when we go inside, we also find more inscriptions. For example, we have a huge slab, which I documented for the first time. And here I'm showing you people that it shows all the names of the contributors and the years. Of course, I'm reading this inscription, and with the help of Professor Iqbal, I'll share the data with him, and then we'll go through what is actually the content and how many detail we can extract from this. And then later on, a kind of water pump was also constructed, was also provided in the building, and again we have the inscription evidences there. This is the house, and this is I'm talking with the lady. The lady was quite afraid that we are government people and we are visiting her residence, and they had the fear to lose their property. So that's how it was very difficult to convince them that we are scholars and we are just documenting the heritage, the religion, and the building in which you are living. So this belongs to some religion as well. So that's how creating the awareness with the people and winning their confidence and telling them about what is Jainism. This is the interior. Of course, it's not in a good condition, but sometimes things are not under our control. And then we have another very close to this that is called Thadi Bhabadiyan. Thadi Bhabadiyan. So Bhabada is a word which used for Jain community. We have so many places here, but here we have Thadi Bhabadiyan. They have just corrupted the word how they have written, but the building is there, the inscription is there, the name is there, and the tradition is there, and the mohalla is there. This is how the building looks like, and still it has the original texture. People are living. We were allowed to document some part, but not. We have 3 families living on 3 different stories, and that's how just inside the city we keep on finding clue for how many, for as many as Jain buildings or remnants we can find. So I have just tried to document it that how this looks alike, this building look alike. It's a very typical, we call it Androon city heritage. This is in Lahore. And then we move further from Lahore, and then we have founded the buildings which were later on converted to some other use and some other purpose, but we have the references that those buildings were built during the period of Jain community. And then there is a bazaar which has now been totally replaced, but this is the Ferozpur Road, the important trade route as well, the important link road as well. And then sometimes things are, a kind of hidden, and we are not able to identify. So this is actually, I'm working on this temple, just trying to prove what actually this is. So we have different I noticed this flooring, and then I cross matched this flooring with other buildings. So I found the commonality here. And then we have the famous Ahmad Jain hostel. This is how it looks like. The same building, but of course, interventions are there. They have changed. They have tried to modify it, but you can see the original scheme, original structure, original. And here you have a kind of name which is still there. Amar. Actually, they wanted to write Amar Jain, so that is Amar Jain hostel. And the tradition of building a hostel still exists in that particular area. We have another Hindu hostel there. That's called Mollam Hostel, Hindu hostel. That's how it looks like. The building looks like. And nearby, you also have the Hindu community living there. This is the building that is from the previous line, that is Chandoke Hall. So on one hand, we have Hindu hall, Jain hall, and then we also have the Muslim hall, the Muslim hostel. So that's how we have also the Buddha Street, which I discovered that the name was written on the Buddha Street. So people don't know what is the meaning, but that's how we have the Buddhism there, we have Hinduism there, we have Jainism there, and we have Islam there. So everybody was living in the same vicinity. So that's how the structure looks like. And then another view of the same building, but from a different perspective. I have a doubt that maybe this was the Jain temple. Still working on it. And these are the passages leading to the hostel rooms, which have now been, of course, occupied by the local community. And then we have the Heritage in Lahore Museum. This is the famous Jain gallery. And we have the details of the marble work, the inlay work. Here you can see the depiction of the auspicious dreams. And then we have Shri Atma Ramji, his impressions, Charun Padukas, which we say. And then we have the inscription there. And that's how the detailed, I have the detailed documentation, but due to the lack of the time, it's not impossible. It's not possible to share all the details, but I'm just giving you the glimpses. That's how the heritage inside the Lahore Museum looks like. This whole this Jharoka was actually shifted from Gujranwala to Lahore Museum. And then we have also the sculpture of Mahavir. Of course, from Gujranwala, 19th century. These are the inscriptions. And then we have also the metalwork, stonework, sandstone. And then from the store collection, I tried to find, and then I located this piece as well. And then architectural motifs, Charan Padukas. And then in the same gallery, we have this beautiful artwork. It's a very detailed artwork. I think more than PhD thesis can be done on this particular this one Tirath Path. And then we have in the same gallery the whole artwork and the gallery. Here you can see also the impression, the inscriptions, the sculptures, and the dreams are depicted there. So we have a huge variety of Jain art. We have sculptures and we have icon and idols, inscription, just like mentioned. And important thing that it belongs to each and every community. It's not confined to one community. It belongs to all the Shavtambar. We have Shavtambar temple, Digambar temple, Dadabari temples, Charan Paduka, Samadhis, and then school, Jain hostel, everything is there. So this is the research, of course, model which I'm actually following and applying to the other cities. So in the whole of the country, we have the Jain evidences which relate to all these main sects of the religion as well. So when we talk about the Jain artifacts, again, there are issues. We don't know how many of them are, how many paintings are there. So there's a very limited information. At the same time, the information about the religion is, about its philosophy is unknown. So the subject matter is there, the inscriptions are there, the material is there, but what is lacking is the documentation, which should be done in order to highlight it, in order to bring it to the surface. These are often mixed with Buddhist and Hindu art. Of course, there are problems and there are solutions as well. Problems are there that we don't have a library that is about Jainism or Jain literature. New literature is also it's not available, although we are working on it. So scholars are not trained in the field. So we don't have the experts on Jainism, and the philosophy of Jainism is also unknown. And at the same time, we have administrative problems and financial issues. We have social pressures. And the thing which comes to my mind that, of course, we have lack of appreciation. If you are a scholar and you are working on Buddhism and Indus Valley or other religions, of course, you will get a lot of attention. But when you are working on this, on Jainism, then you are not appreciated, at least at the same style. So we don't have a lot of opportunities through which we can attract the people to study, and also no scholarship for the student as well. On the other hand, we have scholarship for the Buddhist studies, we have scholarship for the Indus Valley studies, we have scholarship for the Hinduism, and we also have for the Sikh heritage and Hindu heritage. Scholarships are there, studies are there, but the missing link is this Jain patronage. So when these are issues, then it is related to the exploration as well, because this field is not considered the ideal field. Just like I mentioned that if you are working on Indus Valley or Gandhara or Mughal or British area, these are understandable. But when we convert our attention to Jainism, then we have secondary literature and public, no serious such literature. And to my surprise as well, not a single monument was listed by the government department when I started. But now, since it's been years now the efforts has been started, and the complex, the building, the samadhi, those are being taken by the government. So this is a very encouraging thing. Sites are not centrally protected, so that's why these are the limited property, due to which we are not allowed to visit and photographs, and we are not allowed to permit to visit the enclosure. And many times we are being asked a kind of interrogated that what are you doing, what is the purpose of your research, and why there is a need to open this new field when we have a lot of other things. So there is insecurity, and the insecurity is because these places are located on a very ideal location in heart of the city, which there you will find a lot of property value, and then we also have the business hub, the business activity. So that's why the heritage is being exploited, and with the passage of time, the deterioration and encroachment work is there. Having said that, we have been doing this for the last 5 years, and we have been able to develop cooperation, to develop a relationship. We have been visiting the sites, not one time, many times, because every time you go, you meet a different person. So I take it as a different kind of opportunity to propagate my word that this building is related to Jainism. So that connects to the creating awareness, and then we also are trying to organize seminars In my journal, I'm the editor of a journal, so I encourage the people to send you publication about Jainism, and I do publish them. I also I'm supervising the thesis and giving lectures on voluntarily basis as well. So the only thing behind it to establish linkages with the people, with the organization, with the institutions. Last time I was in California and it was a wonderful visit, and I met many beautiful people there. Praveen ji and also Shugan ji, Sulek ji. There are so many. Mohini ji was also there. So what is our future? Future, what I actually think about it. So I have a plan to prepare strategy based on my short-term plan, long-term plan, then we convert into master plan. Of course, we are mapping the heritage of Lahore. Then we will move to the other cities, and then based upon this model, we will also cover the whole provinces and find for the more things. Then we categorize this, the monument, and then also risk assessment is also there. And then we will also give recommendation and highlight the significance and request for the patronage, just like the way we have with other religions. And study of Jainism, I'm also trying to include it as in the curriculum. To my side, I'm teaching, I included that one course, Jainism, in my BS and MPhil studies, and also in PhD studies. So I'm encouraging the students to opt this field, and then also to organize a conference. So just like we are celebrating this Mahavir Jayanti, so I'm also working to float this idea that we can also celebrate some of the events in Lahore as well, or in Gujranwala, or in any other cities, just to create attention and to create awareness and get attention of the people. And then what actually my dream is to establish a Jain chair in my department as well. Just like the people you have in America, we have so many chairs. Why not to establish a one Jain chair? No doubt it can consist of one single room and one person as well. But let's have a beginning with it. Of course, with the passage of time, it will accelerate with all of our efforts. So Jain chair in my department, or Jain center, establishment of Jain Study Center, it would be first of its kind in Pakistan. And then through this, of course, we can also open a corridor. I name it at Lahore Corridor, Atma Ramji Corridor, or Jain Corridor, or Jain Heritage Trail. So I'm working on these things, but of course, it is taking a lot of time, and it cannot be possible without the support. So what is the responsibility of Jain community now, which I think it's very interesting to understand. Based on our efforts, we are getting actually the fruits, I would say, of our research, and developments are being made. And for the first time, I would definitely tag it heroic talks of restoring a Jain heritage. For the first time in history of Pakistan, a Jain heritage, a Jain mandir in Lahore is being restored by the government. So that shows the policy of the government as well. And we have restoration of Shri Atmaram Ji Samadhi as well. I believe some of you have visited Pakistan, and now things are of course getting better. But then it leads to a question: why we should restore it? Why we should preserve it? And preserve it for who? Because people are not there, Jains are not there. So the restoration going on, but of course, this is for the Jain community as well. Apart from our national duty and heritage duty, this is also the responsibility of the Jains as well to keep, the life alive there. And the community should come forward around the globe. And my humble request again is to take the ownership. The title I used, the question of its ownership, we are taking its ownership, but I also request the community to take ownership of the shrines as well. So what we can do, so the community has a key role because he's the key real beneficiary. Take the ownership, visit these sites, and approach local offices of Pakistan, embassies in your respective countries. You can also talk about the Jain heritage and its need to restore it, need to document it with the embassies nearby, and arrange yatras, just like Hindus and Sikh and other communities, they are arranging yatras. Why not a Jain community can arrange a yatra there, and then organize a committee who will be responsible to look into all the matters. I know there are people who are doing a lot of work, just like Professor Iqbal here, and then Larson here, Nirmal Bedji doing, Sulekji is doing wonderful job. So you need to bring all the pulse together, and then we have a way forward. The way forward about the Jain tourism, the first question definitely about the scenario, the political scenario, or the security purpose. So to me, it has no direct impact on the cause we are working. Security is more than satisfactory. Me and you look alike. There is no such difference. If a person from Europe and America who can visit freely, then why can't we visit it? There will be no questioning around. You can move freely, and you can confirm it with the people who have been recently there. I think I came to know that people were there recently. They can share their experiences. And the way you can communicate with the people, because the teachings are much closer to Islam. The philosophy is much closer to Islam. So there is a need to revive that historical linkages, to talk with the people who lived in that scenario in that particular area, and they had memories. We also had a plan to cover the memories, to record the memories of those people. So acceptability is there. People are now getting familiar with the word of Jainism. So this is the best time to step forward, I would say, the best time to invest. The favorable government policy is there. We know about religious tourism. There are people coming to visit their sites. We have now the festival of this Sikh festival is being celebrated here. A huge quantity, a huge amount of these Sikh pilgrims are there, and they are being taken care of by the government level as well. So we have the institutional support. We are doing the work. We have the people on ground, the human resources there, and we are open to the international collaboration as well. So, but I would say the hype is there. That kind of vacuum was created, that has been filled now, and there is a huge scope for the sustainability of Jain research and Jain tourism in Pakistan. So this all can be achieved not only from one person or to another person. We need to have a kind of support. The heritage is there, but we need funding and research to do more research, to expand our research in other cities for revealing these hidden treasures. So we need support to reconstruct the lost network, the capacity of Jain studies that was existing here till 1947. No other religion was there which was a practicing religion, which was active religion like Jainism. So people have those memories that they used to walk with those people who were barefooted, and they always talk about peace, and they always talk about contributing the society. They were against any kind of violence. So people have those memories. If I talk with a friend of my grandfather, we have that memories. They have those memories. They know those people were there, but then they were suddenly gone. So that's how we can revive those memories there, which I believe is achievable task, depending upon what we do for the Jainism and what we are doing. We are playing our part, and we request all the stakeholders to step in and also encourage the students and the scholars, give them some incentive, give them some projects, give them some, or finance a chair in a university, so that it should attract the other people to opt for this discipline and then get connected with you. I also plan to write a kind of master book or a kind of introductory book about the Jain heritage in Pakistan, which definitely for which I will need funding, need to travel all over the places in order to cover it. So this is all what I wanted to say, and thank you very much, and happy Mahavir Jayanti to everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Professor Hameed. That was wonderful. And I think the work that you've already started to do, and also the capacity that the new universities in Pakistan, as well as the older universities, have for this sort of work is really remarkable. And I think there's definitely interest. So it's remarkable to see the work that you're doing, and really appreciate, despite all of the obstacles and challenges, that you have worked so hard to help to develop this field over the last decade. Thank you. So with that, I would like to now shift to Professor Zohaib Ahmad, who is the assistant professor in the Department of World Religions and Interfaith Harmony at another very prestigious university in Pakistan, Islamia University in Bahawalpur. And he did his doctoral work in Islamabad at the International Islamic University. He has many areas of interest, including religious conversion, Judaism, Jainism, and Muslim theology. And he's going to be talking to us today about the first course book written in modern Urdu, in Pakistani Urdu, on Jainism. So the translation of Jain ideas into a university workbook in the Urdu language. So with that, I'll turn it over to Professor Ahmad.
In the name of Allah, who is most kind and merciful. Good morning to everyone, and also good evening as well, because it is night here. So at least to me, Professor Gogri, Professor Hameed, and other participants who joined us from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. So good evening to them as well, and good evening to me as well. Happy Mahavir Jayanti. Let me formally start by thanking the Department of Religious Studies. Dr. Iqbal, I cannot share my screen. I don't have option access. Could you please ask someone?
Sure, hold on 1 minute.
Okay. Now I got the option.
Thank you.
Let me start the slides. So let me formally start my presentation by thanking the Jain Study Center, Florida International University, and the Jain community of America. And I must also thank Professor Dr. Iqbal Akhtar and his team for arranging such wonderful lectures. What I am going to share today with you people is my project, a course book, as Dr. Iqbal also told that it is the first course book on Jainism in modern Urdu, intended to write for the students of graduate level students of the university and the general public. So why this work is important? I think Professor Hameed talked a lot about it, that why we need to work on Jainism. I will just turn your attention towards education and teaching. Everything else, I think Professor Hameed already shared, the problems, the challenges, what we need in Pakistan. So to understand why the need of a course book, we have to understand the religious education system of Pakistan. There are two modes of religious education. The students who join us in the university, they either come from madaris, the religious seminaries, or from regular schools and colleges. In madaris, there is more focus on Islamic education like Quran and Hadith and other Islamic sciences. They give a less focus on sciences, whether they are natural sciences or social sciences. They do not study any foreign language. For example, they learn Arabic, but they do not consider Arabic as a foreign language because it is the language of the Holy Quran. On the other hand, in schools and colleges, we have more focus on contemporary sciences. They do teach the basics of Islam because it is compulsory in Pakistan to teach Islamic studies. Also, English as a foreign language is compulsory. So students who join us from schools and colleges, they have some knowledge of English language. but mostly their teachers are unaware of other religions. So they have some basic knowledge. For example, they will know the name of Hinduism, who are Hindus or who are Sikhs. But if you ask them who are Jains, they will be looking at you like you have stolen something away from them. They sometimes they even don't know the term Jainism. So that's why the students who came from schools and colleges, they don't want to work on Jainism because it is the very first time they are learning this very term Jainism. In Madaris, some students are interested in studying Abrahamic religions because Quran talks a lot about Jews and Christians, but mostly they discourage the study of other religions. Sometimes I have also experienced that they discourage other students as well. You should study Islam and not other religions. After graduating from Madaris, if they do not join universities, they will be working in mosques or Madaris. So in teaching, we have two big problems while particularly focusing on religions other than Islam or Jainism. The very first one is of language. The students who join us from Madaris, they do not know English. Sometimes they hate English. And those students who join us from schools and colleges, they have some knowledge of English, but they are not, this knowledge is not good enough to study complex texts such as Agams, Veds, or even the Holy Bible. And if we talk about Prakrit or Sanskrit or even Hindi, it is out of scope. In a billion, one or two in Pakistan who know Devanagari script, who can write or read Hindi language. So it is a very big challenge. Language is a very big challenge. For example, I have studied 10 years. Religious education, I have taken 10 years. In 10 years, I have just studied 2 weeks on Jainism, in which 4 or 5 pages were there from where we were studying. And second thing, as I have told, that material is not here. Material is not here, not on word religions. On Abrahamic religions, there is something available because Christian community is living in Pakistan. So we have a material written by some Christian scholars. But when we talk about Jainism, things are rare. Mostly they are old. By old, I mean they are written in classical Hindi or Urdu, full of Sanskrit and Prakrit terms, which the contemporary students, they cannot understand. Even I cannot understand. When I was reviewing some manuscripts at the particular pages, I was unable to even read the text. And it is biased. By biasness, I here mean that they were more, this material was written by Jain scholars from religious perspective. So there is almost nothing for general public or a student of history of religions, and it is inaccessible. I am not able to find in the last 8 months even a single book written on Jainism in Urdu language. In hard format, I am unable to find anything. Perhaps Professor Hameed did. So I will now be reviewing or presenting a review of what we have on Jainism in Urdu. Nothing much. There are just 14 books I am able to find with the help of Professor Gogri and some other of my friends. There are 14 books available in Urdu written on Jainism by non-Muslims. By non-Muslims, I mean Jains and Hindus. So 3 books are on Tirthankras. These are 3 biographies. The very first is a biography of Parsnath, the 23rd Tirthankara. It was written in 1921, or it was republished, I think, in 1921. It is the oldest one available. A small booklet written by Lala Smear Chand Jaini, full of Prakrit and Sanskrit terms written in a form of a story. The other one published in 1980 by Kanchiram Chawla. It is a biography of Mahavir, the 24th Tirthankar. It is a comprehensive, it is a comprehensive biography of about 400 pages. and written in a very easy and beautiful Urdu. So from here we can learn something about Mahavir and his teachings. The third one is a translation from Hindi to Urdu, and other biography of Mahavir, a small booklet of about 40 pages, and it is also full of Sanskrit and Prakrit terms. Sometimes I was unable to understand what is written on those pages. The next 6 books are the biographies of Jain scholars. Professor Hameed talked a lot about Shri Atma Ram, the famous Savitambra Murti Pujak Tapgach Acharya. So we have 2 biographies of him. The first one is published in 1930 by Lala Babu Ram, and it contains information about Atma Ramji. There are 2 biographies. One is in prose and other one is in poetic format. And next we have 2 biographies of Shrimati Parvati ji, published in 1915 Bukrami. So these 2, from this biography, from the biography of Parvati ji, we can also learn something about the Jaina community living in Sialkot at that time. And her biography was also in prose and poetry. So 2 books are also available on her. And the third one, published in 1940, it is a biography of Vallabh Vijay, who was famous for his educational works. It was written by Kundan Lal Pritam, who was a teacher in a Hindu high school in Gujranwala, a city now located in Punjab, Pakistan. This biography have also some other features, that it also provides us information about the relationship between Jain and Muslim community. According to our author Kundan Lal Pritam, they were living in perfect harmony. He particularly mentioned that during the Jain festivals, the Muslims stopped eating meat, and the butcher shops all over the city, they were closed. So for our author, they were living in perfect harmony at that time. And apart from these 9 books, we have 5 books on different topics, mixed topics. The very first one, as you can see, the title page available in Hindi and English, but the book was in Urdu. It is, these are bhajan translated into Urdu for Jains who want to perform their pujas. It was published in 1940. In 1958, a book was published. And this is a special book, special for this occasion, for our event as well, because it was published on Mahavir Jayanti. It is poetry written by Sikhs, written by Jains, written by Hindus, and written by Muslims in the praise of Mahavir and different concepts such as Ahimsa or Aprikara. So it contains 2 years of poetry in 1956, 1957. Later it was published in 1958 from Delhi. And the third one, the date of its publishing is unknown, shared with me by Professor Iqbal. It is Jain Itihas, the history of Jainism, written by Pandit Prabhu Dayal Jain. It has 4 sections, and it is a very difficult book to read. The language is classical, old, full of Sanskrit terms, and also it has 4 sections. In the very first section, the author shared with us the ancient history of Jainism, and afterward in the 3 sections he was sharing what he got from archaeological findings, like in inscription. So it is mostly available for those students who are interested in archaeology. For the student of religious studies, there is less material in it, and it was written in classical Urdu script, so it is hard to read it. Now, besides non-Muslim scholars, some Muslim scholars also tried to write on Jainism. We have 7 book chapters available, and the very first one was published in 1966 by Parvez Ahmad. The title of his book was, if I translate it into English, Sacred Books of World Religions. In this book, he provided a chapter on Jainism. 6 pages he had written on Jainism. In the very first page, he introduced Jainism. I have written 2-3 lines on Mahavir, a paragraph on Jain Agams, and the remaining 5 pages he has written on Hindu books. I think he was not even aware of the difference between Hindu and Jain sacred texts. So it is almost worthless to study Jainism from this book. The second one, published by Imadul Hasan Faruqi, who was a graduate of Philadelphia University. The title of the book is Major World Religions, published in 1986. It is a wonderful book. It is written in tough Urdu, but it is wonderful academic work in universities. If we want to teach other religions in religious studies department, we prefer this book. He has written a chapter of about 30 pages on Jainism, prepared from 8 different sources. 2 of them were written by Jains, other were written by non-Jains like Orientalists, and he did not use any primary source. It is something surprising because while he was writing on Hinduism, Sikhism, Judaism, he was giving references from primary sources. But while writing on Jainism, he did not even mention a single primary source. But whatever is the case, this is what we have available to teach our students. The third book written by Anis Ahmad Falahi, a scholar of Aligarh Muslim University, India. The title of the book is Comparative Religion, World Religions, a Comparative Study. It was published in 2010. This book contains a chapter of 40 pages on Jainism. Mostly he was referring to Imadul Hasan Faruqi. His book was published in 1986. I have just shared with you. This both contradictions and academic writing. He shared some views which are not acceptable for Jains. And he has but what he did, he provided a comparison. He provided a comparison of Jainism, Hinduism, and Islam. So this is what is new in his book. The remaining 3 book chapters, they are based on these 2 books. So this was what available on Jainism in terms of books. In terms of articles, I have found 4 articles. The very first one published in 1982. Its title is Jainism, written by Sayyid Abdul Qudus Hashmi, a famous historian. But what he has written on Jainism is not a complete view of Jainism. What he has written is also contradictory to what Jain believes. For example, he said Jain consider themselves Hindus. Jain do not have any sacred text. Jain, for example, Mahatma Gandhi was a Jain. So it is also worthless to study Jainism from this article. The other one written by Riaz Khan Al-Azhari, a comparative study of cleanliness in Islam and Jainism. But our author, he was not aware of social system of Jains. He has written 4 or 5 pages on Jainism, mostly taken from the books. I have already shared with you the contents of them. So this article is also worthless to teach students, because what he has shared, what he has tried to present is nothing but biasness, because he did not even mention a single primary source in his paper. The third one, these are actually 2 articles shared with me, one of my fellows, Yasir Farooq. They were published in the Dirasat-e-Diniya, a research journal published from Aligarh Muslim University in 2021. They have written 2 articles on Jainism. Both are same. One is of 5 pages, other is of 7 pages, in which they introduced Jainism and provided the names of agams, but mostly they try to transliterate from English, and their pronunciation is not good. These scholars are residing in India, but I think they do not know Devanagari, or they did not try to consult or meet any Jain to check their article. But they tried to write from academic perspective. So their papers are, for me, they are not biased. So this is what we have on Jainism in Urdu. And as Professor Hameed also mentioned, that we do not know the philosophy of Jains, we do not know their history, we do not know about their sacred texts, and even the general introduction on Jainism. If Imadul Hasan Farooqi was not there, we not even know about Jainism. His book, published in 1986, kept Jainism alive among the students of religious studies. So what I have produced is a book of 7 chapters, 375 pages, which contains a long preface in which I have provided the literature review of what is already available on Jainism. Then a chapter on the introduction of Jainism, in which a general introduction of Jainism is provided, vindication of Jainism, comparison of Brahman and Sharman traditions, how ancient Jainism is, what Jains thinks, an introduction of Kal Chakra, and an introduction of 23 Tirthankars. The whole book contains these blue boxes in which I have provided general information like Jain calendar, famous Jain saints, and other information like this. It is available in all of the books, so student can they take some interest while studying Jainism. In the second chapter, I have discussed the biography of Mahavir. I started it by providing the arguments given by Jain scholars that he was a historical person, he was not a myth. Then discussed his life from both Savitambra and Digambra traditions. The third chapter is on what happened after Mahavir, how Jainism spread, what happened to the Sangh, where the dispute came, why Savitambra and Digambra schism happened, how kings and sadhus spread their religions in the different parts of India. Each of the book chapter, as you can see in the right, each of the book chapters end with an exercise which contains hundreds of short questions and long questions, so student can check their knowledge about this particular religion. The fourth chapter is on Jewish sects. I have provided information about 24 Jewish sects, both ancient and modern. And in the right, you can see 2 words are highlighted in the blue. It is hyperlink. If you are studying this book in PDF format, you can go through between different sections by clicking these hyperlinks, as we have in Wikipedia. So for the ease of readers, I have also mapped the whole book. In the 5th chapter, the religious text of Jainas is studied. History and introduction of their literature is provided. I have also written on what Jains have produced on other topics such as philosophy, poetry, Ayurveda, or Katha. The whole book of mine is from both primary and secondary sources. 2 types of sources I have used. The one sources Orientalists such as Hermann Jacobi or Peter Fugel, but they have write on Jainism. The next chapter is the longest chapter of the book, Jain philosophy. It discusses 3 Ratnas and 9 Tattvas. And as I have mentioned that I have used primary and secondary sources, both sources. So Dravya Sangra, the famous book on Jain philosophy, is also referred in this chapter. I have prepared it with the help of Tatvarth Sutra. Professor Gogri was helping me a lot while I was writing on this chapter. This chapter took like 4 months to complete. So it was a very difficult chapter to understand the Jain philosophy because nothing was available on Jainism. If you do not know Devanagari script, you do not know Hindi, you do not know Sanskrit, and then you start studying Hindi to write on Jainism, then you can see that different books are available on Jainism. What I have produced, it is already available in English, in Hindi. But when you are writing on Jainism, each and every term, when you are mentioning, you have to give an explanation of it. You have to write it in the correct format. You have to translate it transliterate it from Hindi originally, so people can have a good pronunciation. 7th chapter is the final chapter of book of 42 pages. It contains information about worships, festivals, and social rites of Jainism, the popular Jainism, as we can say. So what I think we should write on Jainism, what we should do about Jainism or Jains is already mentioned by Professor Hameed. And what he suggested, I am also thinking the same. But apart from that, I think we have to produce another book on Jainism in which, as I have mentioned, these topics like cosmology, mysticism. I haven't written a single line on Jain mysticism. Acharya Kun have written on it, but my book was already about 375 pages, so I skipped these topics. Jain temples in Pakistan, I don't think any information available about Jain temples in Urdu. I have studied the papers of Professor Hameed. They are written in English, so these papers are almost worthless for the students of religious studies, because in last 80 years they did not study English. So we have to produce something for them in Urdu. If we want the students of postgraduate level, MPhil and PhD students to do research on Jainism, we have to translate sacred texts like Tatwar Sutra or Kalp Sutra. We have to translate it into Urdu. Otherwise, they will be not writing on Jainism. In last 80 years, according to my knowledge, none of the students have written a thesis or dissertation on Jainism. None of the students of religious studies have written on Jainism in Urdu language. So we have to translate these works into Urdu. And what is available in Urdu could be translated into English or Hindi as well. But the most important thing is the translation of the sacred text and the secondary or the sources such as Drave Sangra or Darshan Sair of Jinsen. So it was all from my side. The problems I have faced in this research is shared with the problems mentioned by Dr. Hameed. So thank you very much for your patience. That's all from my side.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Ahmad. That was wonderful. And I think it really underscores the importance of, funding and pursuing the study of Jainism in sort of a dual language, way of thinking about the tradition. So not just in the international scholarship that's in English, but also then being able to translate it into local languages so it's made readily available to the majority of the people, particularly in Pakistan, who don't know English or don't necessarily have it's not just English, but also a very high form of English, and particularly sort of with high ideas of philosophy that then connect linguistically to Sanskrit. It makes it very, very complicated to intersperse many different languages and to get a high level of academic discourse. So we really appreciate the hard work and support that you are doing in that. And so with that, we're a little bit over time, but we're going to continue with our final speaker, Professor Kamini Gogri, who is a recipient of the Kachh Shakti National Award in 2013. She holds a doctorate in philosophy for focusing on Jainism. She is a project consultant on Jain prosopography at SOAS Jain Center in London. She's also the head of Ancient Scriptures at Ekam Resonance Foundation in Mumbai. She's an executive member of the Scholars Committee of the Jain Agam Mission. She's on the board of the Center of Indian Studies at Al-Zahra University in Tehran in Iran, received Indic Academy Fellowship for 2020-2021, and is also working with the German government in terms of interfaith laws. She has specializations in history, philosophy, mysticism, bhakti, Prakrit, Buddhism, Jainism, and Shaivism. And she's also working on projects with Professor Valley in the University of Ottawa. So with that, I would love to turn it over to Professor Gogri.
Janendra, good morning and good evening. I'm extremely grateful to Professor Iqbal for having me on this occasion of Mahavir Janma Kalyanak. And I would like to also thank Professor Larson, who, very grateful of him too. This is my second opportunity to be in FIU. And I had visited FIU in 2014 when Steve Bose was the director, and we had, it was 150th year of Acharya Tulsi's birth celebrations when I had the occasion to visit there and present a paper. So I'm really happy to be here for the second time. And also very grateful for all the co-sponsors for this event. Now, my topic is basically my whole interest in Pakistan, Jainism is, I just want to say that cultures, religion, philosophies, humanities have no boundaries. Like we, the Jains have made Mahavir Jain, and the Buddhists have made Buddha Buddhist, and Muhammad is a Muslim by Muslims. But these are the people who have given values for humanities. And therefore, culture, religion, philosophy, history know no boundaries. And my research I would like to increase the scope of research, but my previous speaker, the respected speakers have already shared their vision and their problems and whatever they have been doing. So being in Pakistan, they have an advantage, and being in India, I have a disadvantage at one level to visit Pakistan because it is actually related to the field visits. Now, what I want to point out is a few things which are already done and which needs to be done. So what needs to be done is something, and we in research, we always have three levels of research, three ways in which we do research is the oral history, the archaeological, and the literary sources. Now, in the literary sources, we have, in the agamic sources, we have a lot of references available, like the Avashak Nirukti or the Vasudev Hindi or the Bhagavati Sutra, and in few other sources, the presence of Jain, the activity, the Jains who were there, and what has taken place over there. Now, at those references, I would not like to repeat, but just a hint to open up that yes, Vasudev Hindi mentions that the Jain monks have traveled in that area. Now, but how to correlate that, what is required is the archaeological sources. Now, when I was with my own limited availability of resources, I started it 10 years ago, but then it stopped. And I again restarted since last year when I came in contact with Professor Iqbal and the whole Professor Zohaib Ahmad, who have been doing this research work, and reading Professor Hameed's article and discussing with Professor Peter Klugel that what we are lacking is the inscriptional evidences. The archaeological sources, yes, we have the references of the Sirkap Stupa, plus the Jain images in the Lahore Museum. But what is lacking is the study of the inscriptional evidences. Now, as we all know, that there is a whole Silk Route right from China to, through Jammu Kashmir, and then to Pakistan, right up to Central Asia, up to Iran. On the Silk Route, we have a lot of inscriptional evidences. Now, fortunately, yes, from the Buddhist point of view, we have studied the inscription, but unfortunately, from the Jain point of view, we have not been able to explore, because I am sure that when I went to one reference, I found that there were through the Khyber Pass, beyond Khyber Pass, there were the Jain merchants who were traveling in that area for the business purpose. So on the trade routes, we definitely have the presence of activity. So one is the inscriptional, evidences. Even in the Buddhist sources, we might find in the inscriptions the mention of the presence of any Jain evidences. Now, as I was reading two articles, I found one mention of one recent article written by, if I may mention, just let me point out the reference, that there was a coin which is available. There was some coins which were found. Now the coins had the figures of Nandyavrat, then the figures of Tri Ratna, but the scholar has interpreted as the Buddhist Tri Ratna. Now there might be an indication that Tri Ratnas are also there in Jainism. Now we need to relook at these evidences, that how what do these evidences suggest. Now these are very in a very limited way, these evidences are available. As I said, they have to be discovered from the point of view of rediscovered from the point of view of Jainism. So these coins, yes, as I mentioned, Tri Ratna, Nanda Dweep, and there is a naked ascetic, probably must be, apart from Digambar, there were others also. But yes, in this article by Sarita Khetri, this scholar writes about the availability of the coins which need to be studied. Now, then also, as I said, the inscriptional evidences which needs to be relooked. And when I also went through Klaus Fischer's article of Gandhara sculptures of Kunduz and environs, he mentioned from one Jaina image from Bamia. Of course, when I say, when we talk about Pakistan, the northwest frontier also includes, would include to a certain extent the presence of activity in Afghanistan, and also to a certain extent we extend up to Central Asia and Iran. So I would suggest it is a whole belt we undertake rather than study it from the isolated perspective. So he mentions about the Jain image from Bamia, apart from other evidences which are of God Buddhist. Then also in article by again another article by Klaus Fischer, we have the archaeological remains of Jainism in West Pakistan and Afghanistan. And another important area was Bactria, because that Bactria is a central, it is a central point where all the Mediterranean, Mesopotamian, Central Asian, Indian and Iranian, all these cultures were a meeting point. And there is this one reference which I found, which talks about the presence of the Jain merchants passing from Khyber Pass for the trading purpose. Now, there is a possibility that the traders also had their own logbooks. Now we need to look at the local sources. Apart from inscriptional evidences, the literary Agam references and the scriptural and the other commentary literature, these are what we say, you know, the other local or all the travelogues, then the logbooks written by the merchants, which mentions about their own activities. Now, of course, we need to dig deep into it, because these merchants, there were less merchants in Kashmir. The presence of Jains with Kashmir was less, but still there were. Then you have Punjab, Rajasthan, and Gujarat. So the travels from the merchants from these areas have traveled up to Central Asia. So if they have traveled up to Central Asia, definitely there must have been the ancient trade routes which are mentioned there, with some Jain activity present in that area. Of course, we have the list of the temples, we have the list of the Silk Route. Still, the unexplored inner routes are still remaining. And secondly, inscriptional evidences, the understanding of the coins and numismatics is required. Yes, and of course, now another important evidence is the bronze statues. Now the bronze statues which were found in Afghanistan, they were made by Gujarat, in Gujarat, taken to northwest frontier, but for the Gupta period, 4th century AD, by the traveling merchants, and again they have got back over here for some reason. So it is not only over there the activities have happened, but they have got here back for some reason, because I mean, we all know that the people who have been worshipping, then some Jains are so religious that without doing puja they would not have the food. So probably for that purpose they have made their special images, they have left. Some are got back, some must be still hidden somewhere in those areas where probably the Sirkap Stupa is there. So references, evidences of Jain images still in those areas are mentioned in some articles. So for that, of course, we require the help of the archaeology department, who can undertake a more archaeological dig deep into those areas and find out more evidences from the presence of Jain activity, Jain images which are still there. Also, few references which are unknown to probably few scholars. I'm just mentioning, like Shatrunjay Mahatmya mentions about the whole area of Takshashila. Now, there are 3 articles written on Takshashila in Gujarati language. So he got an image from Takshashila. There was Uchchanagri Shakha, one of the subsect of Jainism, which was present in Takshashila, which mentions about 500 Jain chaityas over there, but unfortunately destroyed over a period of time. And there's an interesting story which says that during those times, it was one monk predicted that Takshashila would be destroyed in 3 years. So one Shravaka, a lay follower, comes from there to visit this monk, Shriman Dev Suri. He does not visit that area, but he formulates, he composes the Lagu Shanti Stotra, and then he gives the water for that Shravaka to stop the whatever the plague or whatever it comes over there. But nevertheless, the Shravak from that area, the people had to leave that area. So from these stories from the our local literature, we might find these evidences, these stories, which we need to discover and understand the presence of the local life of the Jainas who were living over there, apart from the archaeological sources, the literary sources, and also from the local people, the lives of the Shravakas through travelogues, through logbooks of the merchants. Probably there should be, of course, I'm sure there are, because these are the straight references as we have found. And I mean, I have just found recently, I was doing research in this area, so I found these evidences about the presence of the and also from the anthropological perspective, the language and literature, right from the Sirkap area, of course, modern Lahore, Peshawar, all these places we know. But right up to the Sirkap area or the Takshila area, the local influence and confluence of cultures, where, say, for example, the exchange of words, the dress, the food, how, what has come from that perspective, also we need to do a study as to any such exchange has taken place. So I'm sure there must be, because languages have traveled. Some words are taken from, I mean, the words travel, the dialects change. So from that point of view also, we need to relook and restudy from these many perspectives. And my personal interest is to study the Vignapti Matras. There is a reference about these Vignapti Patras, not Matra, Vignapti Patras. The Vignapti Patras are the invitation by Shravakas to the monks. So these Vignapti Patras are the invitations where they mention about the monks of those times in 13th, 14th century, where the Sanghas, for example, there is a reference of 14th century Vignapti Patra, where Muni Jaisagar mentions that he had to take a Sangha from Marota Maruko to Punjab. And the Vignapti Patras, those invitation letters, there are lots which are found in Gujarat and Rajasthan. So these also evidences you have prior to 13th, 14th century, the presence of Jain activity in these areas. So currently, with my own limited research and resources, I have found these many things. The other which already have been worked upon by Professor Hameed and also Dr. Peter Flugel had already worked a lot in this area. So with this, I would like to just suggest that literary sources available from the merchants, from the logbooks, from the Vignapti Patras, and second area, the inscriptional evidences on the Silk route from the Buddhist trails. You can also connect the presence, because already in India we see that wherever one religion or one tradition flourishes, the other two are simultaneously flourishing simultaneously. So even why not explore that area from inscription point of view, that where in the Gandhara region, Takshila, all those areas where inscriptions have been found, the presence of, from the Jain perspective, the inscriptional and the numismatic evidences also. So I know it is a very short presentation, but with my limited research, this is what I could bring out, and I am very grateful once again, Professor Iqbal, for having me and letting me present my viewpoint. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Gogri. Okay, so I think with that, we're going to conclude our session for today. I understand it was a little long, but I really appreciate you all taking the time to come and to listen to us. Of course, we're very, very grateful to the Jain Education and Research Foundation for their generous support and their foresight more than a decade ago of establishing the Jain Studies program and then expanding that across the United States and also globally into Europe as well. We're thankful to our speakers, Professor Hameed, Professor Gogri, Professor Ahmad, who joined us, to the chair, the dean of FIU, for their generous support of this. And particularly, I think I want to thank Professor Narendra Parsons and Suleik Jain as well for their generous contribution in terms of helping to fund this research. And I think without their work, their help and their support, we wouldn't have been able to do this. So I was in Pakistan for the last 6 months on a Fulbright fellowship, and it was there that I met the various professors, and I've been working with them. And so I think that was really a great opportunity for me to be able to see on the ground what's happening in Pakistan and to understand that the situation had changed quite drastically from 20 years ago when I was there. So Pakistan, I think, has developed greater institutional and educational capacity. Politically, it's stabilized in terms of the policies towards non-Muslim minorities. This, we see kind of the policies toward the Sikh community and other communities, that there has been progress to open up Pakistan as a society, not only to the world as a whole, but particularly to scholars as well. And that's something that I would like to continue to connect scholars in North America and Europe and even in India to be able to come to Pakistan, to be able to do a conference on Jainism, to develop the further study. There's tremendous heritage. One of the things that we've done is we've done an application to the US Ambassadors Fund to try to help preserve archaeological heritage in Pakistan. So there's a lot of capacity. There's going to be ups and downs as we develop this field within Pakistan. But I think that I would like to leverage what the Jain community in the United States has done over the last decade to expanding Jain studies in South Asia, and particularly in places where there's very little knowledge of it. And there's probably a lot of misconceptions, as Professor Ahmad talked about in terms of the textbooks. So there's just a tremendous scope that exists, unique opportunity at this historical moment in Pakistan. And we're very honored to be able to connect the scholars in Pakistan to scholars in the United States, in India, and other places to be able to further this research. And we hope that your guidance, your support, your intellectual interest will help to push that forward. Just one note for those of you who are attending. Currently we have the Bhagwan Mahavir chair for Jain Studies position that is open at FIU. The application closes on the 18th of April. So we encourage those of you who know scholars of Jainism that are interested in coming to FIU to chair the program. We're trying to develop more programming and academic research, and also community outreach. So also then developing FIU as a center of excellence for applied Jainism as well, and contemporary Jainism. So we thank you so much for your time, for coming here, for your attendance. We hope that you'll come to our events in the future. And eventually, once we're able to meet in person, to come to FIU, to welcome you to see what we've done and to collaborate. Whatever great ideas that you have and opportunities, please don't hesitate to email me, and we'll send out a email that follows up on this. And we're, looking forward to any type of collaboration and any sort of innovation in the field of Jain studies here in Miami or anywhere in the world. So again, thank you very much. Happy Mahavir Jayanti, Jai Jinendra, and Michami Dukaram for any sort of mistakes or problems that we have caused in doing this project, but we hope that you will continue to support us. Thank you.